The screeching of tires cut through the autumn air like a warning. Chen's heart lurched as she watched the man in the designer suit step blindly into the intersection, his white cane sweeping uselessly as a delivery truck barreled toward him. She didn't think. Her grocery bags hit the pavement, apples rolling into the gutter as she lunged forward, grabbed his arm and yanked him back onto the sidewalk. They tumbled together onto the concrete, her body instinctively shielding his as the truck roared past, its horn blaring in anger. "Are you insane?" she gasped, her pulse thundering in her ears. "That truck would have killed you." The man beneath her was breathing hard, his expensive sunglasses knocked askew. For just a fraction of a second, Sarah could have sworn his eyes flickered open, sharp and aware. But then he fumbled for his cane, his hand trembling. I couldn't see." "The light, I thought." Sarah's anger dissolved into concern. She helped him sit up, noticing the way his hand shook, the pallor beneath his tan. "It's okay. You're safe now. Are you hurt?" Marcus Wellington, third, had orchestrated 17 blind dates in the past 3 months, and every single woman had failed his test. Behind his dark glasses, he could see perfectly. The blindness was an elaborate ruse, a filter to separate the gold diggers from the genuine. When you have $3 billion and your face plastered across Forbes magazine, sincerity becomes rarer than diamonds. But this wasn't supposed to happen. This woman wasn't one of his carefully arranged dates. She was just someone who'd saved his life without knowing who he was, without calculating what she might gain. Her hands were rough with work, her jacket threadbare at the elbows, and she smelled faintly of the cinnamon cookies he could see, scattered across the sidewalk from beneath his lashes. "I'm fine," Marcus managed, his carefully practiced, helpless demeanor back in place. "Thank you. I'm so sorry, I must have gotten disoriented." "Don't apologize for almost dying," Sarah said, already gathering her scattered groceries. A carton of eggs lay crushed, yellow yolk seeping into the concrete. She stared at it for a moment, and Marcus saw her shoulders sag almost imperceptibly before she straightened. "Where were you headed? I can help you get there safely." "I was supposed to meet someone at Cafe Meridian," Marcus said, making a split-second decision that would change everything. "A blind date, actually." Ironic given the circumstances. Sarah laughed, a real laugh that caught him off guard. "Well, at least you'll have a good story to break the ice." "Come on, it's just 2 blocks. I'll walk you there." As they walked, Sarah kept up a steady stream of conversation that Marcus found oddly comforting. She told him about her daughter Emma, who was 7 and obsessed with dinosaurs, about the job interview she'd just bombed at a tech company because her childcare fell through and she'd had to bring Emma along, about the burnt lasagna she'd attempted last night that even their ancient cat wouldn't eat. "You're meeting someone at Meridian?" Sarah said as they approached the cafe's gleaming glass doors. "That's a fancy spot for a first date." "She must be special." Marcus felt an unfamiliar twist of something in his chest. "Guilt, maybe." "I'm hoping she will be. I've been on a lot of disappointing dates lately." "Well, don't give up," Sarah said, pressing his hand briefly. Her fingers were warm despite the cold. "The right person is worth waiting for, even if you have to kiss a few frogs first." She was turning to leave when Marcus's phone buzzed. His date, a pharmaceutical heiress named Brittany, was canceling. "Too much traffic," she'd texted, "not worth the hassle." She didn't know he was blind. She was just another woman who'd proven exactly as superficial as her social media suggested. "Wait," Marcus called out. Sarah turned back. "My date just canceled. Would you maybe want to have coffee with me instead? As a thank you for saving my life?" Sarah hesitated, glancing at her broken eggs, her crushed cookies. "I really should get home to Emma. My neighbor is watching her and—" 30 minutes, Marcus said. I'd really like to hear more about those dinosaurs." Inside Cafe Meridian, Marcus felt exposed in a way he hadn't anticipated. Sarah had no idea who he was, and yet he found himself telling her things he'd never shared with anyone. Or rather, she asked questions that somehow pulled the truth out of him, about his overbearing father who'd built the Wellington empire and expected his son to be equally ruthless, about the loneliness of never knowing if people wanted you or your money. He edited out the specifics, kept up his charade, but the emotions were raw and real. "You know what I think?" Sarah said, stirring her coffee, black, because she'd waved off his offer to buy her the expensive espresso drinks. I think you're testing people. With this whole blind thing, I mean. Marcus froze. What? Oh, come on. Sarah's smile was gentle, not accusatory. I saw your eyes when I pulled you back. Just for a second. And your cane work is terrible. You're supposed to tap, not sweep like you're mopping floors. Plus, you looked directly at your phone when it buzzed. Marcus's carefully constructed world tilted. In all these months, no one had caught him. I can explain. You don't have to, Sarah interrupted. I get it. People can be awful when they think you're vulnerable or when they think you have something they want. My ex-husband stayed with me, just long enough to clean out my savings account before he decided. Fatherhood was too hard. Trust me, I understand wanting to test people before you let them in. Aren't you angry? I lied to you. Sarah considered this, her eyes thoughtful. You lied about your eyes. But everything else? That felt true. The loneliness, the pressure, the fear of being used. That was real, wasn't it? Marcus found himself nodding, his throat tight. Then that's what matters. Sarah checked her phone and grimaced. I really do have to go. Emma will be getting hungry, and I need to figure out what. I'm feeding her since my groceries. Our now sidewalk art. Marcus did something he'd never done before. He told the truth. My name is Marcus Wellington. I own Wellington Technologies. And I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I've been pretending to be blind to filter out the women who only want my money. You're the only person who's ever seen through me and didn't care. The only one who saved me without knowing what you might get in return. Sarah stood up slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. The Marcus Wellington? From the magazines in the checkout line? Please don't leave, Marcus said. I know I'm a liar and an idiot, but I'd really like to see you again. You and Emma. No tests, no games, just honestly getting to know each other. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. You know what the crazy thing is? I wasn't even supposed to be on that street today. I took a different route home because Emma wanted to see the construction site with the big cranes. 5 minutes earlier or later, and you'd probably be in a hospital right now. Or worse. Fate, Marcus suggested. Chance, Sarah corrected. But maybe we get to decide what we do with it. So here's my test for you, Marcus Wellington. Come to dinner at my apartment tomorrow night. Nothing fancy, probably mac and cheese if I'm being honest. Meet my daughter. Sit at our wobbly table. If you can do that, if you can see my real life and not run away, then maybe we'll talk about a second date. Marcus smiled, a real smile that felt like it might crack his face from disuse. I'll bring dessert. What does Emma like? Dinosaur-shaped cookies. But only the stegosaurus ones. She's very specific about her prehistoric pastries. I'll have my chef make a dozen. No, wait, Marcus caught himself. I'll buy them. From a store, like a normal person. Sarah laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound Marcus had ever heard. You're going to be terrible at normal, aren't you? Probably, Marcus admitted. But I'd like to try. The next evening, Marcus stood outside a modest apartment building in Queens, holding a box of store-bought stegosaurus cookies and feeling more nervous than he'd been before his first board meeting. When Sarah opened the door, Emma peeked around her leg, wild curls, gap-toothed smile, eyes full of curiosity rather than calculation. Are you Mommy's friend who can't see? Emma asked, refreshingly direct. I'm Mommy's friend who was pretending he couldn't see, Marcus said, crouching down to her level. Which was pretty dumb of me. I'm sorry about that. Emma considered this. Did you bring the cookies? Stegosaurus only, as requested. Then you can stay. Over mac and cheese and plastic dinosaurs, Marcus Wellington learned what he'd been missing. Emma's elaborate theories about why T-Rex arms were actually perfect for hugging. Sarah's terrible jokes that still made him laugh. The warmth of belonging somewhere, not because of what you owned, but because of who you chose to be. 3 months later, Marcus stood before the board of Wellington Technologies and announced he was stepping down to spend more time with family. His father sputtered. His investors panicked, but Marcus didn't care. He'd found something richer than money, more valuable than power. He'd found someone who'd saved him, without knowing his worth, and loved him without counting his money. And in return, he'd saved her right back, not from trucks or poverty, but from the belief that all people wanted was what they could take. Sometimes the best things in life don't come from elaborate tests or careful planning. Sometimes they come from crushed eggs on a sidewalk and a woman, brave enough to pull a stranger from danger expecting nothing in return except maybe a thank you. That, Marcus learned, was the only test that ever really mattered.